So if I look at my existing Hello Audio stats, my highest performing podcast, when I created this for my folks in the society, were about mindset, which is what I used to coach on, like way outperformed everybody. So in my brain, I got hung up because I'm like, well, do I need to do something on mindset? Or maybe it becomes a bonus track that's within, because a lot of times that's where people get stuck.
So there's two things I would say, when we're looking at stats.
Welcome, everybody, to another coaching episode of Launch Your Private Podcast. I almost said audio lead magnet, and that's funny because that's what we're talking about today. We have Joyce Layman here. She is a visibility strategist and author, and we're going to be going through her lead magnet. And what I love about this is she listened to Launch Your Audio Lead Magnet, was like, of course I want an audio lead magnet, and she happens to be something she teaches on. So this is going to be a really great episode. I love when we talk with experts and their real true expertise shines through in the interview as well. So we'll be going through that conversation with her today. So Joyce, thank you for hanging out with us.
Ladies, this is going to be fun. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited too. So yeah, give everyone a little bit of background in yourself and how you have your business, how you make money online, that kind of thing, so they can kind of see where this private podcast thing fits in, if you will.
Yes. I've been around since 2008. So needless to say, social media marketing has changed significantly since then. The folks that I focus on when I am working with coaching clients, they are looking to boost their online authority. They want to build an email list of people who actually are interested in what they have to offer. They tend to be either newer or maybe they've been in business a while and they're just struggling. They're getting burned out on social. They've been trying to do all the things. So the strategy I teach is how to leverage other people's audiences through podcast guesting, collaborative bundles, and expert summit spots. And so with that, you got to have a lead magnet, which is crucial. I love the private podcast aspect of this, but I also teach micro offers. I get so much more into depth, but that is the snapshot.
Love it.
This is going to be great. Okay. So let's start by talking about where this private podcast, this lead magnet is going to fit. And what I want to do is frame this up by saying, where is it leading to? What's the offer that we ultimately want this to sell? And then maybe give us just a quick overview. I mean, we've talked about that avatar, kind of what they're looking for. Are you planning on, I think initially we talked about maybe doing warm traffic, so kind of doing a list launch of people who, your people on your existing list. And then I assume you're also going to want to send cold traffic to this lead magnet as well.
Actually, yes. I was about to say, and I'm happy to start with cold traffic because I already know what my physical, like my PDF lead magnets, where they are living and how I'm driving traffic there. I think it's a great way, though, to get my existing list engaged in a different way.
Yes.
Because they join through some sort of bundle, summit, podcast guest, lead magnet. So if I can take them back through, I love the analytics on Hello Audio. It's going to tell me who's interested, what they're interested in. So it just gives me more data, which I love in the process, versus, hey, go check out my blog.
Yes. I think it's a nice way of inviting people back to the table. Because as they raise their hand for something, could have even been lead magnets that you were talking about. And they're like, yes, I'm really interested. And then maybe the timing wasn't right. They got busy. They got distracted. And by being able to present content that's super valuable to them in a different way, it's a little bit of a pattern interrupt. It's something they haven't necessarily seen. And it's just a great way of inviting people back and re-engaging or reactivating that list. So this lead magnet is going to sell your core offers. Let's talk a little bit about ultimately where we want this lead magnet, the heavy lifting we want this lead magnet to do so that people are ready to buy those two offers.
Yes. So I have two different offers. One is my Visibility Builder Society. It's my $27 a month membership. And the second is my Visibility Incubator, which is my group program where I have custom GPTs that I've built out because AI, I love it, been using it for 2.5 years. So that's where instead of just telling them, giving them prompts, it's let me make that easier. And I also go much deeper into strategies than I do the society. And then I've got a variety of micro offers. So as an example, the ultimate lead magnet formula, which is a PDF, leads into my lead magnet accelerator kit, which is my AI prompt guide and a video tutorial walkthrough. I've got a digital shop actually that I just opened. So I turned over not everything for the society and the incubator, but a lot of those one-off. So it's like, if you want to buy something one-off, great, or come get it for free over here. So I've got lots of different paths, I guess that's how to say that. But it's interesting to the timing of this because my launch that I'm doing at the end of this month for May is my lead magnet lab. So it's going to be a live workshop with 3 days where they can literally get coaching on getting their lead magnet done. So for this, and we talked about this briefly, and I love all the how my brain is spinning just from our conversation. But the people that I'm working with, a lot of them not tech focused, they may not have put together a lead magnet, or they tried and it wasn't getting any traction, right? Nobody was opting in for it. So they either don't have one, they need to create or take what they have and already created. Or maybe they've already created it because the higher level of this, they should turn it into a private podcast lead magnet, which I think is brilliant. So that way it still fits, but it's how do I take what I have, that idea that I have, or that piece of content that got a lot of traction, how do I turn that into a lead magnet? So if you can help me fold that in to the lead magnet formula that I've created, I think we're going to have some magic out of this.
Yes. And I love this because, Lindsay and I have talked a lot about repurposing content and how it's one of the easiest ways you can get a private podcast off the ground quickly. Because as business owners, especially business owners who have been in business for a while, we have a lot of experience and we've created assets along the way. Some of them we've probably even forgotten that we've created because we've paid so much. And that's great. But now you could take those and just repurpose them and put them in a different format. So the PDF that you have for your lead magnet formula could absolutely be repurposed into a private podcast. Now, could that private podcast still lead to the micro offer? Yes. Could the private podcast then also lead to either the Visibility Builder Society or the incubator? Yes, because so your ideal person, there's two different things, two different outcomes that your person is looking for. One is that they need an asset, whether they have it or not, right? They need an asset that they can use to build a list, because without that list, not much happens in business. We've got to be able to get, create that email list. But the other problem they have, so creating the asset is one problem that we need to solve, right? It's one outcome we want for them. But the other outcome that relates very much to visibility is how the hell am I supposed to get out eyeballs on this, especially if I don't love social media, if I really don't feel comfortable showing up there, or, what Meta has become is against my values and I don't agree with showing up there, whatever that is for people. I'm sure it's different for everybody. But if that's the case, right, how do they get visibility to this asset without necessarily doing the things or showing up in the way that they want to show up with? So I think that there's two different things. I think you could absolutely repurpose your lead magnet formula and create that. And I do think that's a bridge. Now, whether you enhance that and start to talk about, growing the list and getting visibility to that asset without social. I know you teach that in your program, so I'm not saying give away, all of your stuff, but I think there's a balance between there's people out there that have something and it's not working because they don't know how to generate traffic. They don't know how to get that visibility to it. And then I think there's other folks that have doubts about that asset. I think there's doubts around the strength of it, how compelling it is. Maybe their messaging is a little bit stale, especially as the world has evolved, in the last, call it 6 to 9 months. I think that there's different ways you could either take it and create a different angle on this as an audio lead magnet, or just keep it as is, which is the simplest thing, but now use it as a bridge to that's the next problem to solve. And I think you can pre-frame that by saying, before we send traffic to, before we have eyeballs on it, let's make sure that it's what you want. Make sure it's a good representation of your brand. Make sure it's actually using the messaging that's going to resonate, that it's going to bring in the right people, because no one wants to attract the wrong people, especially if they're a service provider, a coach, or a consultant, which is a lot of folks that you work with. And then you could either, move that into a different micro offer or straight into your visibility coaching programs, because they're going to need that to get eyeballs on that as well. So I think we have two options here. We can enhance your angle on that lead magnet or keep it as is and just repurpose it and lead it to different offers in your sequencing?
As you were talking, what came to mind is I want to enhance it. Because if somebody went through the 100 plus blogs on my site, they would see how to drive traffic. So I've already got that. It's like that content exists. It's just not all in one spot. So I think I could even pull pieces out of that. And then for me, it's more of, we talked about this. I've done speaking and training for so long. When I was over on the corporate side, you got to give them everything if you're being paid for a keynote versus I don't want to give them everything in this because first off, I know it's going to overwhelm them.
Right. Yep.
And so it's how do I take it and give them the amount in the segments? I was completely hooked when I listened to yours because it was short, it was to the point. So it's let's take it. I think we need to enhance it and then make sure that each mini podcast episode, that piece of it is what it needs. So we're just naturally bridging. And then if you want to take the next step, so it's you want to do a paper version podcast, here you go, because they've got a free Canva template at the end of this. If they wanted to turn it into, a Hello Audio private podcast, they're ready for that. Then here's the next steps. And of course, my brain's already thinking, well, okay, I just send them over to you guys and you can help them out, with that. But yeah. So anyway, that's what's going on in my head.
I like it. I think there is an angle here. And I think anytime we're revisiting previous content is just a great opportunity for us to see what we would want to enhance. Because in that moment, as entrepreneurs and creators, we create, what's in the moment. And then life evolves, the world evolves. Teaching our own experience evolves, like you finding private podcasts and discovering private podcasts as a medium and as a channel for, list building. I think this is just a great opportunity to share some of the things that you've learned over the last, few months or that you started to, leverage in your own business. So I do think there's something there. I wonder if, and not that you have to teach, as we all know that there's a lot of strategies that people can use to list build outside of social. You teach some like you talked about collaborations and summits. And that there's a lot that can go into that and there's details and you give people in your visibility coaching the step-by-step and you help people and you support them through it. And I think there's some folks who aren't even aware of the options and maybe haven't navigated, understood what might be a good fit for them or have misconceptions around how much work it is or misconceptions that it might not be the right fit for them. So in this lead magnet, it's not necessarily, like you said, about teaching the how to get visibility or get eyeballs on your lead magnet without social, but it's introducing them to the right fit option for them. And you're introducing them to options they might not even know existed for them or that they didn't feel were possible or within reach for them, just given where they are in their business. So I think even having that shift of what's possible in this lead magnet, in addition to teaching them how to create a really great lead magnet, could be the bridge that they need to then take that step into your visibility coaching and get help to execute on one of the channels that you've helped them decide. So it's almost like, if you think about it, your audio lead magnet is going to help them create or get insight into how to create the most compelling lead magnet that they can and give them insight or help them make a decision about how they want to promote it. Especially if they've already in their mind made a decision that social isn't it, maybe you introduce them to other options. And then because let's say I make a decision, I want to do collabs or I want to do summits. Now, the next best step for me is to join your visibility program so that you could help walk me through the framework, the proven framework that you have to use summits or to use collaborations. I think that feels like it might be a great way to enhance it, but not necessarily give away all the training that you teach inside your coaching program.
Yeah, absolutely. And the easiest way, because I have some folks that have come on, they've never even considered podcast guesting, which is the easiest way. And a lot of times with the podcast, they're going to ask you, do you have something of value to offer? So then you're driving traffic that way. I like to use it as passive ways too on your site. You should always have a lead magnet. You should have something in your social. So if somebody happens to stumble across it, you want them to be able to take that next step as you're talking. And I think this is the next level as far as what I can do within the private podcast as well, Because when I submit offers for collaborative bundles, it's not a typical lead magnet. I build out something that is actually a micro offer. And I always say, you've got to have a video that goes with it. Well, audio is a great way too. So that way you're appealing to the different types of learners. So in the back of my mind, I want to stay focused, but I'm going to put this over. I'm already thinking all the different private podcast feeds I'm going to have now. Thank you. Hello, audio, of how I'm going to be delivering.
We tend to have that effect, especially when people come on the show. Yeah.
Yes. And we did talk about this earlier, and I do want to bring it up as well. So that way you can answer this because somebody else might have this. So if I look at my existing Hello Audio stats, my two highest performing podcasts, when I created this for my folks in the society, were about mindset, which is what I used to coach on. So using your reticular activating system, like knowing how to spot opportunities, how to use your brain to spot opportunities in comfort zones. Those are the two highest downloads. The RAS is 134 downloads, like way outperformed everybody. So in my brain, I got hung up because I'm like, well, do I need to do something on mindset? Which isn't necessarily that get the lead magnet done, because build your list through mine.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I know. And maybe it just becomes a different track, or maybe that just becomes content that I create for clients. Or maybe it becomes a bonus track that's within, because a lot of times that's where people get stuck.
It's interesting. So there's two things I would say. Whenever we, when we're looking at stats in someone's account, especially if that episode that's getting the highest downloads and the highest visibility is not the first or second one, right? If it's the first or second one, that's pretty natural for them to have a higher count. But if it's like in the middle or down a little ways in the episode numbering, then that is an indication that there's something, especially if, and there's a couple things here, especially if there wasn't any pre-framing. So if there wasn't any buzz built around it, if there wasn't any like, hey, you need to go check this out, and it was a natural curiosity that people are flocking to that episode, then that tells me that might be worth testing out. And the good news is you already have that content in there. You could absolutely repurpose some of that and turn that into an audio lead magnet very easily and test it. So the good news about audio lead magnets is that they are really fast to create. And you could 100% test that without having to put a whole lot of time and effort into it, especially because that content's already created.
Okay. I love that. It's actually when somebody comes into my program, we don't talk about visibility, brand, list building, any of that. They need to understand how their subconscious mind works. Knowing how to use my RAS is how I got the nickname of being a walking LinkedIn. So those are the two things, because what I'm going to teach them is going to push their comfort zones, and then understanding their RAS. So they're listening to those episodes because I'm telling them before you do anything else. But I will tell you,
so that's good.
Yes. And like I said, comfort zones is first. RAS, it has far more, because once people grasp this, it's like, holy shit. I mean, what you can do with your RAS is extraordinary. So I don't want to fly blind.
My first reaction was like, it's good that is like one of the first things you tell people in your membership to do, because I do believe when someone signs up for something, they need a holy shit moment. But then there's also something to be said for pulling that holy shit moment out and giving that before they get into your world. So, we're actually playing with this. I'm not going to say how we are, but we're a little bit like, oh, our holy shit moment is right here. Every software has it. We were just like, oh, holy shit, right? Or all the good ones do. And so the faster you can get to that holy shit moment, the better. So that, I don't know, Nora, there might be something here, because part of me is just like, you have the ultimate lead magnet. It works. It's a popular lead magnet. You've been doing it a while, but you also have this one that you've never had as a lead magnet.
Right.
And you don't know if it would do really well, and it could be interesting. Yeah.
But let's go back to how it actually applies. So if you're looking for bundles, summits, and podcast guest spots, if you know how your brain works and how you literally start spotting keywords, then it's so much easier to see them. The latest example, I live in Kansas City, Missouri. I was on a Women in Kansas City Facebook group. I'm skimming through. It happened to pop up in my feed. And I saw a woman who is an HR consultant. She's written multiple books. She's also developing an online course. And she posed a question that said, I want somebody local to help me redo my online course. She's now a private client. Had my RAS, had I not known, and I want people to think about it in keywords since we're talking about online, right?
Mhm.
It's like, if you know what keywords to search for, this is why knowing what to use in your bios, knowing what language to use on your website, this is a step that your client is looking for. I probably wouldn't have seen her with that post. It wouldn't have been relevant. But now that I do that, so if I'm out looking for podcast guest spots, bundle, and summits, I can scan very quickly. And then my RAS goes, boop, there it is. And then I go in a little deeper to find the opportunities. So there are opportunities everywhere.
So you see what I like about this is I don't think I know exactly the whole thing of like you see a blue truck and then you buy a blue truck and then all of a sudden everyone has a blue truck, right? So that's that same brain thing that's happening, and you're using that neurological like term for it. So I've never heard it applied to this, and that's where I'm just like, there's a bunch of people that know bundles and summits are out there. They're like, yeah, I could do that. And like, they're scattered about it. And what you're saying is like, look, it's all right there. And I'm going to show you the way to do it. And then the invitation is, do you want me to help you with pitching? Do you want me to help you create the offer that's going to get clicks? Because if you show them how to find it and they've never thought of it that way before, and if they even just listen and experience it, which we know is very possible, then they're going to be like, this chick knows what she's talking about. And like, yes, I want to learn all the other things versus I need to create a lead magnet. Like there's a lot of people out there saying that a little bit, you know what I mean? And so I don't know. To me, this is like an angle that I've never seen before. And that tends to have better results.
Yeah. I think it's a curiosity play of how we get, because no one,
like, what
a
is
lot
she
of people
going to
that
say?
don't know
Like, what's she going to teach it? Yeah.
Yeah. No one,
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of people whose awareness, they don't have an awareness of what RAS is. And yet I do think if we can create a hook that has enough curiosity that ties to the outcomes that they do want, to the known need that that person has, then I think that lead magnet could be really successful. And so part of me is thinking that it's like train your brain to be seen, like something like that could work.
And then there's hooks like, if only you knew this one thing that you could do with your brain that like, what I love about it is like, they actually don't have to do anything.
Right.
They literally just have to scroll.
I mean, it's work,
like,
but it's not.
Yeah,
lead
it's
magnet.
not.
It's not creating a lead magnet.
And
No.
okay, now I'm like, So this can actually turn into, I have a micro offer called the Perfect Fit Keyword Finder.
Okay.
And so when you understand, so it's two ways. This is two ways that we can apply this. So if you're looking for opportunities, because as I said, a lot of my clients, they have never considered podcast guesting, and it is the easiest thing to do. And your personal story is incredibly powerful and it gets your feet wet. Coming from someone who used to physically shake if you put a microphone in my hand, who went on to do keynotes and has spoken at TEDx, I get that. And I've been there. So if that's too advanced, they have two different ways to look at their RAS. It's how are your potential clients finding you and looking at you as well? Because it gives you the, why should your bio be written with the keywords that people are actually thinking about and searching for? I know people talk about bios, but until they get this, it's like it's the keyword search. Your brain is literally the SEO. I don't know if we say SEO or keyword, but it's what your brain is doing to go, there it is, there it is, there it is. That's how your clients find you, but that's how you find opportunities. So I don't know if we weave that into it. So it is the reticular activating system, and it is performance mindset. It's cognitive psychology, not woo-woo.
Yeah. What is more interesting to me? Is it more interesting that I could go out and find my opportunity? Yes, because that is the like, I'm in active mode. The passive mode is people finding me, right? Which I want both, and both people want both problems solved. But there is something special about like, oh, all I have to do is turn on my brain to this one thing, and then I'm going to start to see opportunities. Like there is something there that feels lighter. And the other one is very passive. It's like, obviously then, I mean, maybe it is a two-part thing. Like maybe you do both, but you lead with, they don't know that they get the keyword part for their own bio because that's the thing they have to learn first.
Yes. The other thing, think about it too. So I know you get a ton of applications to get these sessions, which I am thrilled that you picked me, by the way. You had to go out and do a Google search on me. You needed to make sure that I was worth my salt. And I think sometimes people don't go through that. And I teach this all the time. It was my biggest lesson in 2008 before I'd ever done a keynote. I'd done trainings for years. I launched my business. I spent 13 grand on a website and a 2-camera video shoot to look the part.
Yeah.
So when somebody came on, it looked like it. So yeah, you can go look for opportunities, but if they come back to wherever they find you online and they're like, I don't think so, you don't have the opportunity. So to me, that's the strength of maybe not what shows up on your bio, but it's how do you make sure you're finding opportunities? But when somebody comes back, then we start to lead them down that.
Yeah. And that's the membership. To me, that's a bigger problem to solve. So that's the door you're opening where like now it's like getting you ready to be found, while you're building your list and getting visible with these summits because you have to do both in business and it sucks.
Yes.
But you have to do both. And people feel like it's chicken and egg because they're like, well, of course I need a website and a lead magnet before I ever do any of these things. And I'm sure you teach exactly the opposite. So the reality is, if you start with that, I think the harder part is getting all those ducks in a row to be great. But like, look, now they have a deadline. You're on the summit in August, get your shit together. Right. And that's how I work better. And I think that all that we're talking through could actually be content in the series, because I think what you're going to do is you're going to show them this cool thing that no one's ever done before. And then, P.S., I like see reels and posts going viral with this because it depending on how you set it up, where then they learn what the answer is in this private podcast. But then they're going to have objections and they're going to be like, oh, but how am I going to apply to this? Like, why would they pick me? I don't have anything in place. And so like, as if you have in your series where you hit that, and then you also reveal that like you can get coaching on it in these programs for a low price, that's how you're converting people, because you've done the like epiphany part in this whole thing, I would say. Because again, I'm sitting here being like, I don't think you could construct this any more clear, where it's like, they come and they're like, oh, I can find opportunities. Cool. I need to do that. I need to grow my list. And then inside, it's like, yeah, you also need to be able to be found and grow your list from these summit activities. And, that takes a lot of work. Here's how I can help you.
Yeah, for $27 a month, I got your back.
Totally.
Nora,
what are you thinking?
I'm glad I asked. Yes, Nora.
Yeah, it's interesting because we weren't even going down that path. Like, surprise.
No.
Yeah, it's true. I think my gut, it's the positioning of the frame, right? It's like train your brain to be seen versus train your brain to find opportunities. And so part of me thinks that train your brain to be seen is more compelling.
Yes.
And it feels like something that but I think that content needs to help them have the epiphany through the content, that part of being seen is seeing the opportunities yourself.
Yes.
And I think like empowering them, because my gut says right now, if I would say something like, and train your brain to spawn opportunities, or obviously I'm not trying to copyright here, but it's like, that feels like, I almost think they don't have the belief yet in themselves. And I wonder if the conversions would be better if I allowed that, like train your brain to be seen. And they're like, I just want to be seen. Right. And allow them through that content to really be empowered to take control of spotting opportunities and going after them. I can see the entry point in both, but I'm wondering if
I like the title of yours though.
That feels
and like,
right.
It fits her branding or the like visibility stuff and like what you do. Yeah. And then is it without social media? I don't know. Or like,
I think it could be copywriting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without, you don't need to rely on social media to be seen. I think you could have a lot of like, essentially using copy to display your values and the methods that you use. I think that's important. I mean, the other angle is, I would say the other angle works if your audience is already looking for collaborations, for guest opportunities, and they just can't find the ones that work for them.
Thing that they could be doing.
They don't know. Yeah, the people I work with, they don't know that's a thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's like they just want to be seen, and that the reality is like through this content, we can help them have the epiphany that it's like, let's empower you because you actually have control over that, and here's how. And then I think the coaching provides a lot of support through that process, because we all know that that is maybe not a natural mode of operating for people, and they're going to need more support and reassurance, and that from a habit building standpoint, and the tools and techniques that you teach, they don't have access to those. So I think that's where the coaching program feels like a natural next step, because once they're bought in, they're like, well, of course I'm going to learn it from you because you have it all laid out for me.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's also what makes me unique is all the years of the stuff I did on the corporate side, and writing a book on the topic is now what I have to keep reminding people because they get stuck. It's the comfort, it's all of that. So I love being able to take it into versus you think visibility is posting on social, and that's not,
for 30 seconds it is maybe. And that's
and that's not what it is. So I love the fact that I get to bring in what I'm very passionate about, and it makes it unique. So
what's interesting about this too that I just thought about as well is I was thinking about Nicole Culver's interview where she sells like high ticket. So it's not the same as like going into a membership or anything. But she's like, the people who listen to the podcast, so PS, she's running ads and it's like crushing. And she said what we started to realize is like everyone that was coming into the program and saying yes, like had the language already in their head because of the private podcast. And so you have this unique opportunity to really show them this like magical piece of it, because then the other pieces are the implementation part. The hard part, the coaching, the feedback, trudging through and doing the thing. And it's like this magic piece. If everyone thought this, like, what would that do for your membership? And so, of course, you already did that as the teacher. You're like, you guys, you have to start here. So I'm like, what if you put that on the outside? So then it's almost everybody's going through this private. And if they're not, PS, they could just write. I think Nicole said, like, even if they didn't lead into coming from the private podcast, they end up consuming it within the membership. So you could totally have it in there if they find you in some other weird way. But like, if your main lead magnet and you're driving all this cold traffic through and you want everyone to believe one thing or maybe a few things, and then they're like in the membership because they believe your foundational beliefs about how you grow online, I mean, that's gold right there. That's what every membership owner wants, right? So I think that's a way to think about this too. It's like you're essentially pulling out that first step that you wanted everyone to do, giving it to the world for free because that's your magic, and then they go to you for the execution and the community, right? Of like other people doing it with them and stuff for the execution. That's pretty good right there.
Yeah, that feels solid. That feels also unlike, that feels like you're entering competitive white space area, which I like too.
Which of course she has because of her background, right? Like, of course it was going to be like that, just to like highlight you're a very experienced person who's been doing this a long time. And there are a lot of people that are looking for experience and not some chick who went viral on TikTok, right? Do you know what I mean? Like they're looking for like, so I love this. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely sets you apart. Is in a world of, air quote, visibility coaching and like visibility coaches, the way your approach, your methodology, your experience, all of it is so unique. And I think I'm sure this is not the first thing people have invested in when they find you. I mean, likely not, right? Or they have, whether it's free or paid, I think this sets you apart in a way that elevates your content in place where it is. Like, I feel like this is very much the brand equity you deserve. And it takes your brand and positions it in a way that is so different and that other, visibility coaches wouldn't be able to touch because they don't have that level of experience.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I'm already thinking, okay, Chat GPT, we need to tweak.
Yeah. Go to your BFF right here, your business partner.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. I like this.
What I love too is we ended up with 2 lead magnets out of this because you easily could update the ultimate lead magnet playbook and add some audio with some tweaks. And I don't think you need to overcomplicate it. You could easily take action there. And then now you have this like kind of interesting new one that we get to test, which sounds so fun.
Yeah. Well, and I get to take the GPT that you created because after listening to your mic, I know it's like, I love you for creating the GPT, so I don't have to do that one too. Yeah. So it'll be easier to take the content and say, now how do we turn this into?
Oh yeah, because the content already exists as like the module you want them to listen to. Yep. Yeah, so good.
I know.
This is a good episode. Great. I'm sitting here being like, oh shit, that's like, do we add an episode around this and be like, watch it in action? Because now I'm sitting here being like, there's a lot of people that have that aha moment in a course or a program.
Yeah.
This is fun.
This was fun. Yay, surprise, lucky us. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Joyce, for coming. I mean, definitely keep us posted. We're doing a summit with you if you want to drop a little bit about that, just because I think that's great. That's in August. If you want to share a little about, we're obviously link back. You'll get an email with us and you can have, share updated links or anything like that. But yeah.
So the More Leads, Less Hustle Micro Audio Summit, I do not have a date in August yet. I know we're going to have it, so we can drop that in here. But what I am doing is I'm taking the private podcast episode all the way up. And the Micro Audio Summit is going to be 20 minutes. The speakers, it's all about how you generate more leads with less hustle. So we're talking about the private podcast. It's Wendy Breakstone, who literally created the Micro Audio Summit. I've got Meredith Marsh, who is a YouTube expert with 80,000 subscribers. I've got Pinterest, Laura Reich, who has a major Pinterest brand. And so I've got a few other folks I'm including in there. So SEO and blogging. This isn't the quick hit, you post something on social. It's how do you make sure that the people who are coming on, they are already down their buyer's journey and they want what you have. So they're self-selecting to get on. So I am so excited that you guys.
Awesome. That's going to be really fun. So stay tuned for that. You'll probably hear about it in our newsletter when all the links are ready and stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out. This was a really, really good one.
Thanks.
And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.